Now, the other thing that is synonymous with World Cup 95, Francois Pienaar, is the famous Nelson Mandela, Madiba. He played a massive role politically before the World Cup. But if you can give us a background as to how strong an influence that was. I mean, we all know through the hundreds of documentaries about him going to the townships, wearing a Springbok hat, getting booed at stages because of what the Springbok team meant at that stage. So fresh after apartheid. I mean, what was the effect of his influence from the build-up of the World Cup to in the World Cup to obviously to the final day?
One of the greatest leaders ever. He understood the power of sport, and he was brave enough to embrace the power of sport. It didn't frighten him. I guess because he was also a sportsman, and he understood as a sportsman what you need to go through in order to be successful. He was a boxer. If you follow his life, he trained. He was a disciplinarian. When he was hunted by the police, he would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and run on the same spot for 2 hours. I mean, it's almost incomprehensible. But as a leader, he realized the power of sport, and he embraced sport as a changer. I don't think in Madiba's mind, I know that I'm very blessed. I've got the most unbelievable relationship with him. I don't think in his mind he realized how powerful it could be. Definitely I didn't. So before the World Cup, it was, we're going to be in this tournament. We rank outsiders and we have a chance to do it. I think if you come back to what was in our minds, very myopic focus. It was all about one thing, and it's winning. Training very, very hard, making sure that we tick the boxes and going from one phase to the other. Beating Australia, who were undefeated, was important. And from then, the roller coaster started. What Madiba did is he got the whole nation to start supporting the team. That Madiba dust was there. And we realized as the tournament progressed, it's much more than just a tournament. It became much more than just a game. And it only dawned on me, John, after the World Cup. I knew it was there. It was always, it was tangible. You felt it. You felt the energy of Africa and the people. But it's a World Cup, and I'm sure you felt the same. You're going to a World Cup. There's a lot. You've got to focus. You've got to be really clear on what you're trying to achieve. If you start thinking about these things, you will lose. There's no doubt.
When did you meet Madiba for the first time? I mean, I know it's started way back, and we are blessed that we've been able to get to know Madiba, but you've got a special relationship with him one-on-one. When did you meet him for the first time, and how did that progress to him being the godfather of one of your children?
Well, he's now both. I'll tell you this. 1994, he became president, and then he invited me to tea. He didn't phone, his people phoned. And I've said this many times before. When I put the phone down, I was like, why? I was always, why does he want to see me, and what does he want to talk about? And then you sort of become a chick, what are you going to wear type of thing. So it's very important that you got to dress well. And I sat outside his office waiting for him with sweaty palms, and he heard that I was there. He came through the door, and what first struck me was how big a man he is. He's a big man. And he started speaking to me in Afrikaans. I was in the palm of his hands. For the next hour, we just spoke about sport. We spoke about the Olympic Games, about Barcelona, about boxing, about the Springboks, about the boycotts, he wanted to know about my life. I was having a chat with a father figure for an hour. And that was the first time. And then through the World Cup, he came to the practice session before we played Australia. And it's the most incredible moment where I knew he was going to be there, so I went and welcomed him when the helicopters landed, and I took him over to the team. And I was going to introduce the guys to him. I think Quibus or it might have been Mark Andrews were first. So before I could say, Madiba, he said, Quibus. And he knew the names of each and every one of the players, which he's never met before. It was unbelievable. He actually asked Henny about his injury and his hamstring, and wished us well, and then he left. But he didn't leave, because that sense of wow, that sense of this is big, this is quite important, is something that will always stay with me. So through the World Cup, he would phone me on my mobile and ask me how the team is going and so forth. But our focus was rugby. And then when we got to the finals, you speak to him before the game and thank you, Madiba, but your focus is on you asked me about leadership, the right calls, the right plays, making sure the guys are calm. You know, we lost a series in New Zealand in 1994 because we didn't have discipline. You know, it was so margins. You know, we were ill-disciplined. The first game we lost 9-7 and we gave away 2 silly penalties. Yeah. And in the last game we were 18-15 up in New Zealand and one of our players threw a punch. And we drew 18-all. So in 1994 we toured New Zealand and we could have won in New Zealand if we were disciplined and we did things a little bit different. So we had to learn as a young team. So 1995 comes along, the final, you don't want to make those same mistakes. You want to be really clear on discipline and all these issues. So those things are going through your mind. And I'm sitting in the changing room having been strapped up, you know, going through, okay, fine, restart, the guys are going to be pumped, you know, make sure, you know, sometimes when they look at South Africans, we can be a little bit overly aggressive because it's in the DNA, you know.
I like the way you put that.
You've got to calm them down because that moment when the ball is kicked, you know, there's a lot of testosterone in the air. But I was going through all these things and there was a knock on the door and in walked Mandela. And it was unbelievable. He had a Springbok on his heart.
And you knew nothing of this?
Nothing.
He walks in with your shirt?
Nothing.
You knew nothing of this?
I'm coming back to this crying thing, you know. It was incredibly emotional. There he stands with a Springbok on his heart. And he just says, good luck, guys, play well. He turns around and my number is on his back. And I couldn't sing the anthem. If you look at it, I was the first captain to learn the anthem. 5 languages, you know, pronunciation is not that easy, but it was important that I learned to sing the anthem. And Morne was instrumental in this. You know, he got the coaches in to help us. I knew, geez, if I sing now, I'm going to cry.
It's an emotional time.
It's very emotional, you know, and within that, you've got to calm down, boys. You know,
what kind of effect, him walking in that change room with that shirt, I mean, that must have, without having even remembered that he'd learnt the guys' names, that he had a vested interest in the team itself and the players. I mean, your job would have been a lot easier in terms of motivation.
If he didn't come in.
Yeah. I mean, you would have had to really, I think they would have really made things serious and make the guys understand that this is not just about them, but really about a nation-changing experience.
Yeah. Well, the guys were focused, you know, they really were. Him coming in made it more difficult. Because he came in and it was very emotional.
Sort of lights up the emotions.
Oh, it was, it was incredible. I mean, we had to, when he walked out, we had to, calm down. I just explained the effect it had on me. And we were right in the zone. When you get, everything is fine, you're in the zone, you want to stay in that zone. Him coming in almost had the opposite effect. One would think, you're stupid. Surely a man coming in there is going to motivate you more. Can't motivate you more in the sense that you know what you want to do. It was incredibly special. It was very, very emotive, and something that would always stay with all of us. You know, each and every one of the players. I'm sure if you're going to ask them now what went through your mind, I would be very surprised if one of the words that don't come out is incredible pride.